That's them getting, or that's their contractors doing it, them supplying the chemical, there's no other charges on top of that.
And then just so the board's aware, what was the mechanical?
They were 55,000 per acre. And our guess was there was about 33 acres of curly leaf to take out, so. That one got a little expensive.
A little expensive.
Their equipment was located in southern Missouri, so mobilization costs.
So when do you hit that stuff with the chemical?
The earlier the better, once the water temperature hits like 50 to 54.
So
that's-
is it
that's-
like pre-emergent or is it?
Curly leaf starts like under the ice. It's
Oh, it
already-
does?
Yep, especially this year with not a lot of snow coverage, that stuff's going pretty good already.
Wow,
So, yeah, late April, May.
I suppose it's
start
not
on this.
frozen, so. And there's plenty of water.
Yep. Yeah, it's a contact herbicide, so as soon as
Okay.
that. The curly leaf just about reaches the surface is when they want to spray it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mike?
Are we at the point of looking for approval for anything like that yet, or just informational for next meeting, probably to approve or?
Yeah. It's kind of what I would say.
Yeah, it's gonna be more. More likely we'll be looking at approval at the next meeting. The one thing that we need to start working on now is permit application through DNR. We know how long that takes. The question, to the board right now, we're just sort of running this as far as the pilot project. Right now, we're just looking at the West Bay. Maybe give some input from the board if we want to look at the entire lake and try to get some costs there. Again, I'm not sure how the permitting is gonna work. But definitely would like this year to try a certain area, if not. Some more prices, permit status and timelines for you guys at the next meeting.
With that, can we also get safety data sheets or SPS's literature that has like safety concerns?
For the chemical.
Please.
That usually comes from the contractor, right? Okay. Anything else? Moving on to item number 6. Project and Program Manager Courtney Phillips.
Thank you. The first item I have is a resolution 2025-01, which is LCCMR grant application. The district is looking to work with the city of Albert Lee to expand upon the Outdoor Heritage Council funding that we received to restore the channel. So that OHF funding can only be used for habitat, and that's, strictly channel streaming type restoration work. The city and district also want to kind of build on that momentum and implement a couple other, I would say, public outreach and education and access pieces to this project. And that would include installing a couple fishing piers along the channel, as well as the canoe and kayak launch that is just, I would say, downstream of where the city's food park is. Also looking at getting an access bridge underneath Highway 65 that would be able to connect both sides, so pedestrians could go underneath the bridge to access both sides, so they could get from like the China restaurant side to where that food court is. And then also there's an old abandoned railroad bridge that is further downstream that currently it's so degraded that you can't get from one side of the river to the other because there's missing sections, but we would be looking at revamping that and turning it into a pedestrian bridge. Because the city owns green space back there, but it's currently inaccessible because the railroad has private ownership to that. So it's currently landlocking that city property. And with the redevelopment of the Blazing Star area, it would be good to have that pedestrian walkway to be able to open up that green space to citizens. So we're looking at applying for this through LCCMR because LCCMR opens up more funds to recreation and then also engaging users with water resources, so basically opening up our safety accesses to using the recreational resource. So we're looking at applying for $1,280,000 worth of projects. That would roughly consist of roughly $1 million for the actual contracts of installing the project, roughly 210 in professional services and 20 for staff. So there's a first and a second. I'll read the resolution.
First motion. And then motions, you don't have a second.
second.
Senator Lee, you please read the resolution.
I will. Resolution 2025-01 Shell Rock River Watershed District LCCMR grant application. Whereas the Shell Rock River Watershed District seeks $1,280,000 to the Greater Fountain Lake Aquatic and Trail Accessibility Enhancement Project. Now therefore be it resolved that the SRRWD supports the above referenced project and authorizes the submittal of a proposal for funding of this project on behalf of the SRRWD to the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources in response to the 2026 Environmental and Natural Resource Trust Fund request for the proposal. And be it further resolved that if funding is awarded, the SRRWD agrees to accept the award and may enter into agreement with the state of Minnesota for the above referenced project. The SRRWD will comply with all applicable laws, environmental requirements, and regulations and any additional conditions stated in the grant agreement and approved LCCMR work plan. And be it further resolved, the SRRWD understands that grant from the Environmental and Natural Resource Trust Fund are generally paid out on a reimbursement basis. The Shell Rock River Watershed District has the financial capability to pay for project expenses prior to seeking reimbursement, and be it further resolved that the Shell Rock River Watershed District certifies none of the current principals of the SRRWD have been convicted of a felony financial crime in the last 10 years. For this purpose, a principal is defined as a public official, board member, or staff that would have the authority to access or determine the use of the Environmental and Natural Resource Trust funds if awarded, and be it further resolved that Andy Henschel, District Administrator, is hereby authorized to execute such agreements and work plans as necessary, and Courtney Phillips, Project Manager, is authorized to implement the project on behalf of the SRRWD. Be it further resolved that the SRRWD has the financial capability to meet the match requirements and ensure adequate construction, operation, and maintenance of the project once completed. Dated March 11th, 2025. And I do also want to point out that because these are like trail and infrastructure type projects, that the LCCMR requires a 25% match, but it just has to be non-environmental trust fund dollars as match. And so I reached out to the staff and I asked if our OHF fund through Lessard Sams would be able to be matched, and they said it would. So essentially, we would be using that, the 3.2 million as matched towards this LCCMR grant, so it would be no financial contributions to the district as far as like our general fund dollars.
That's good. That's good.
Through discussions on the channel, I'm wondering if we can keep kind of an open view of how would boat traffic get from one lake to the other down the road when assuming that both lakes are dredged in the future. So looking at a potential for a counterweighted or like a draw type bridge for the railroad. Obviously, that would be a railroad project, but as we're looking at potentials for what the channel can be used for, keeping that as kind of top of mind between now and then. How would we get that bridge updated to like a counterweighted bridge so that traffic can go through there?
You got two bridges there. You got the one that's still operating and you got the one they still use. So,
There's technically three because there's one by just,
oh yeah, right up by the Cheddar.
Yep.
Yeah.
yep, so there's three.
So where is the city green space?
On the, would it be east or is it southeast of where the railroad, so like where the old subway is and all of that? The city owns green space behind there, right before the river.
Okay.
It's pretty much, I mean, it's old railroad ground. I think that the railroad donated to the city. Good with John for maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how they acquired it. It's, I think 12 acres back in there. It's pretty
Yeah,
good.
So you're talking on the west side of the block.
Yes, correct.
So there's times when you can't even go underneath those bridges with high water. Of course, you're not gonna be out there kayaking, canoeing when it's that high anyway, probably, but
Yeah, I think the biggest concern for kayaks and canoes would be able to get under the lowest railroad bridge that's closer to Frank Hall Park. Large boats, however, are not. When meeting with the city regarding this application, Steve Yonke mentioned that they did reach out to the railroad and conduct a study on what they could do with that railroad bridge. And one of the ideas that was thrown around was almost like a turntable type system, but I can't remember what Steve said about the details, but it was kind of, they kind of essentially gave up, or you're gonna need a flagger there, someone staked there 24/7 as a requirement of the railroad to get the turntable. I don't know if John knows more about it, or I haven't.
That's kind of the gist of what he said. Not sure if technology is kind of advanced since that period in time or not, but
But I know that Steve has kind of reached out to the city regarding that, because they wanna be able to get access on both sides of the river with the development of the Blazing Star. So maybe at least getting access from one side or the other would be satisfied through this LCCMR grant, but that still doesn't help the boat traffic getting underneath that bridge.
just as to know if the other bridges are quite a bit taller than that one. That one's very short.
A major component of this is safety too. There's just no safe fishing locations by the channel right there by the China restaurant. And especially with the crossing of Highway 65 there to get some type of, established access underneath the bridge. And you kind of launch, it's all engaging recreational users and promoting a safe way to do so.
So like it'd be an interesting project. When all done, that's for sure. Any more discussion? Hearing none, please call roll.
Manager Bakken,
Aye.
Manager Hanson,
Aye.
Manager Kramer,
Aye.
Manager Pasuski,
Aye.
Manager Lee,
Aye.
Manager Delger.
Aye, resolution 2025-01 passes.
Thank you. The next item is a legislative update. Myself, Al, Brad, and Mike went to the Minnesota Watersheds Legislative Breakfast, and I think it was Wednesday night, we were able to hear from lead officials with MPCA, Bowser, and DNR, working kind of, one of their hot topics was permit timeline, surprisingly enough. I know that Minnesota Watersheds and Andy are working on passing legislation to implement that 60-day review. So a lot of those agencies were talking about how they're trying to improve timelines and said that 95% of the time they do meet those timelines. So,
Just not here.
yes. Also, the Minnesota Watershed's main talking points this year are to, one, implement that 60-day permit review, and then also they're looking at regulatory approaches to chloride. That I think it's more so putting liability on chloride people if they put too much salt on, but that was kind of a heated topic, and maybe Brad knows more about that than I do. But those are the two things that Minnesota Watersheds talked about. The following day, we were able to meet with Jean and Peggy, our local representatives. Those meetings went very well. We were able to, thank them for their help in with this district process permitting, because they've helped kind of coordinate some meetings, and we've been keeping them in mind. And then we also brought up potential sales tax renewal, because we'll be needing that again. So I thought it was very good meetings, and great to see them in action and thank them for their hard work.
Good, sounds like a good one.
I don't know if Al or Brad or Mike want to add anything to that.
It's always, I'll do it real quick. It's always good to go up and talk to your representatives and face to face. And let them know your concerns and stuff, so they know what's going on down here, so I'm really glad we.
All right, the next item I have is just some project updates. We have Minnesota or MPCA, so Minnesota Pollution and Control Agency RAPS, which is Watershed Restoration and Protection Strategy funding. And we worked with the SWCD to send out a survey to local producers on what might be barriers to cover crop or soil health initiatives, and what we use examples such as like what incentive costs would you need to be able to install cover crops, or what are your things you're holding back from? And it was roughly about a 2-page questionnaire, probably about 15 or so questions. And SWCD offered to pay for Visa gift cards, that if people filled it out and returned it, they'd be able to get a 25 Visa gift card. So we worked on getting that sent out this week with that funding. Just an update for our watershed-based implementation funding where we're at, because we have 2 grants out there. Our first grant, we were allocated 416,000, and I'm just summarizing, so I don't have to say all the dollars. We've spent roughly 350 of that, and out of the remaining, I think it's like 60-some thousand that's left, we have contracted out for another 32, so people who had like 3-year cover crop contracts, we still have to pay out that 3rd year, so it's budgeted. So out of all of that whole grant, we only have roughly about 32,000 left, which we're doing really good on that, and that expires the end of this year. For our 2.0 grant, we received 547,000, we've spent roughly 131 of that, so that leaves 416 left. A lot of that is for agricultural BMPs, and we're gonna be having our enrollment period for cover crop applications coming up soon. Other funds of that are gonna go for septics, well sealing, as well as CRP incentives. That expires December of 2026, so we still have plenty of time and we're not worried yet. So we're working on spending the funds and we're spending them. Another project update I have is the Hine wetland restoration. That is the property that we purchased last year by Twin Lakes. We entered into professional services with Bar Engineering, and they provided us with a wetland concept map. I'll be reviewing that here. And then I'm also getting quotes for seeding. And so I'm looking at, on our next board meeting agenda in April, that we'll have a seeding concept, because we want to be able to seed it into natives, to upland areas at least this spring. So it gives us more time to manage that upland prairie grass, and then also it doesn't sit fallow for a whole year, so look forward to that at the next board meeting. Additionally, the channel request for proposals for engineering, we're planning on getting that out around mid-March. The city has reviewed it and they think it looks good, so I'll be working on getting that out, and hopefully we plan on awarding an engineering service in May. That's gonna be a heavy lift project for engineering, so we're gonna do a site walk as part of this request for proposals, so that's why it won't be on the April agenda for award, but it'll be on the May. And then the only other thing that I have to touch on is the county workshop today. Mike and I are gonna go up to bring up that Goose Lake low voltage fish barrier and see if we can't partner with the county to get some of their AIS funding to help install that project. That's all that I have.
So where's that AIS funding going to now? I mean, we used to get it every year, didn't we? Didn't we used to get that funding every year from the county?
No, the county gets it, and what they did previously is they would put a request for proposals out so local people could apply for it. And then, I don't know, maybe they did that about 1 or 2 or 3 years, and then they kind of kept it in-house and they didn't put it out for a proposal. And so we've been working with county staff to say, you know, we have something in mind, what's the process? Are you gonna put it out for a request for proposals, or is it just something if we ask, we could kind of work with each other? So that's why we're going to the workshop today, to see if we can use that. I have heard through county staff that Governor Walz is cutting the funding for that AIS in half. So what the counties have been receiving yearly might get cut in half. I don't know if that's true, but I think there's gonna be but one surprise me with all the budget cuts that need to take place, that AIS funding is gonna get clipped to some degree.
Yep, okay.
Okay, then I have a motion to approve the drainage easement through the Owens property. As a result of our wetland restoration project, there was some upland drainage that could have been fed into the wetland, but the elevations weren't 100% on if some bounce in the wetland would impact those tile. So what we did is we put non-perf tile, starting with where that upland tile came in, rerouted it around the wetland and behind the agri-drain structure, so that upland tile would have continuous drainage and it wouldn't be dependent on the wetland restoration's bounce for that outlet of water. And so now we're looking at entering into an easement with the upstream landowner to be able to access that tile and maintain that tile line once we're done with the ownership of the parcel. So we're gonna be donating that parcel off to DNR. So this allows that upstream producer the ability to maintain that tile with that easement that we have in place, because we own the parcel now. So that easement will then follow the land with whoever receives the donation. And it has to be confined, so that's why you see in the easement description that there's a description of where it goes, because it's a confined easement.
You'll have a motion to approve.
So
By Manager Hanson, you'll have a second.
Second.
By Manager Kramer, any discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Bakken,
abstain.
Manager Hanson,
Aye.
Manager Kramer,
Aye.
Manager Pasuski,
Aye.
Manager Lee,
Aye.
Manager Delger.
All right, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. That will go on to item 7, Administrator Andy Henschel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'm going to start with item B, just get this one out of the way. Looking for a motion to approve 2 delegates for the Minnesota Watershed Special Meeting, March 21st, 2025. This special meeting will be held up in St. Cloud. And they need quorum from Minnesota Watersheds. So definitely looking at having 2 people attend so that they can have quorum. I believe they're voting on some new issues as regarding quorum. And I believe they're also voting on some issues regarding the process, legislative process. And maybe Brad as the new chair of Minnesota Watersheds, if you got any more comments regarding that.
Yeah, the main thing that we're looking for is to vote. One, are we gonna change the legislative process so that we have our August meeting? Where we get our delegates together and vote on our legislative, like the resolutions, which was previously done at the annual conference. And 2, voting if we're going to allow like hybrid or virtual meetings, or like a hybrid type meeting in August. Because right now we have to meet in person and vote. So so we're gonna vote on that, so. I'll be there anyway, so as it will be 1 delegate if the board agrees.
So yeah, looking for 1 more delegate that would want to go. Again, it's March 21st, so it's coming right up. Again, we can have 2 delegates from our board attend and vote. And yeah, if anybody else wants to go, let us know. And so,
Goes. Has to be, it's like, you're wanna go in anyway, Grant, or Kramer?
Yep.
Okay. So we have our 2. That's what we need.
yep.
Yeah.
So if we can get a motion to approve Manager Kramer and Manager Pasuski to attend the Minnesota Watershed Special Meeting March 21st as delegates.
On the sheet, it's also stated an alternate, so if you wanna write that as well, or do we need that on the sheet?
Manager Lee would be an alternate.
Sure.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Aye.
Manager Hanson, do I have a second? Second by Manager Wacken, any discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Bakken,
Aye.
Manager Hanson,
Aye.
Manager Kramer,
Aye.
Manager Pasuski, Manager Lee, Manager Delger.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now skipping back up to item A, Fond Lake Restoration, East Main Bay, Bancroft Bay update. Again, on the agenda, we also had to schedule a special board meeting. However, I don't believe we're gonna need a special board meeting at this time. So let me just go through, as most of the managers know, we've been working very diligently to try to get a permit. Again, for the Fountain Lake restoration, including Bancroft Bay, which I think we all know the importance for us, just in the water quality aspect of it. But I think we also know the importance of the constituents that live out there. So we've been having multiple meetings with the DNR the last few months. The dredge committee has attended those dredge committee meetings with myself and our engineering team. The map you have in front of you right here, this is the map that we proposed with the dashed black lines, the heavy dashed black lines is our dredge scope for the areas we want to dredge. Including these high concentration phosphorus areas. This is with the soil samples that we have done, to show the high concentration of phosphorus within the bottom material. We have been pushing this, design. We have reduced the scope that we originally had. We shaved some off of this, east side of the dredge cuts. We've also reduced some of the area up here to the northwest and also up in here to the northeast. With those cuts, we listened to the DNR on their concerns. Two major concerns was the Blandings turtle avoidance. So we actually picked out, if you look at this map, you can see this is from the DNR. This map was submitted to us after we submitted our map. You can see that they really shrunk down the areas of high concentration of sediment. You can also see that they just had one little navigation channel connecting those. They had navigation channels here along the shore to the east and west, and then they had this area here as a dredged area that could be dredged, but all of the blue area in here, they said that we could not dredge due to aquatic vegetation. So with that said, the district went back and looked at, let's develop a vegetation adaptive management plan, which would say that, please let us dredge these areas. If we do not get vegetation reestablishment, we will work towards seeding and trying to get vegetation back, growth back in those areas. Along with a bunch of other things that we have said that we will do, we have also told them that we would have a designated person every morning looking for Blandings turtle. We also had avoidance areas that met the DNR request in these areas. That we would avoid those areas from June 1st to September 15th. So again, we kept trying to find ways to make this work, to make this be a successful project. Then they brought us this map, and this is the latest map, and this is what DNR is telling us they're going to base what they're calling a limited dredge permit. So again, basically they haven't listened or heard or want to hear what we have to say, why we feel that this plan is not a good plan. I mean, it does have our areas to the north. It does have our areas to the southeast. But it entirely voids the area to the southwest. And it also actually goes, the channel that they propose actually goes on the west side of that island, which is, we feel is not the natural flow of the channel through Bancroft Bay. Matter of fact, if you look back to 1965, that island was actually a peninsula. It actually went all the way across the land there, where they want us to dredge. So again, if they're telling us that's the natural flow, I feel firmly in telling them they're wrong. That used to be a natural peninsula, and now is not. So where we stand today, I believe the DNR right now, they're not going to produce this map. They're going to send us. They told us that within 2 weeks we'll have the findings of facts. Their findings of facts are going to lay out the permit. They're going to lay out the stipulations. I guess it was under the engineers' thoughts, myself personally, and the dredge committee that by working with. DNR stating to them that we'll develop this aquatic management plan, we'll have these avoidance areas for the Blandings turtles. That they would see the need, for this project. And with the implementation of the adaptive management plan, that we could potentially go in, and dredge at least some of this area, that they want us to stay out of. But that is not the fact, of what they're saying to us today anyways. So I can say we will have a permit, but it's not gonna be the permit we want. There is an appeals process, that we can go through if it is so desired by the board. What I will tell you as, staff talking to you, this will not get our water quality issue, under control. If you look at this map, and this is a blown in map. You can see the phosphorus levels in this material. Even this, what I call this orangish pink, that is high phosphorus when you look at it compared to the East Bay where we want to dredge. So these areas are again highly rich in phosphorus. We do agree with DNR that yes, there is a ton of vegetation in Bancroft Bay. If you look at their notes, and you look at our vegetation sampling, 90%, 98% of that bay is vegetated. Our dredge scope is roughly 50% of that bay. So we're not even touching 50% of that aquatic vegetation that's out there. So again, we've been now 200 and almost 75 days without a permit. I believe the district feels like we're talking to a brick wall when it comes to this. It's almost disgusting. The effort and the work that our engineers and staff have put into this. And to me, the DNR has had their mindset since day one, since we turned in that permit, that they were not gonna let us get in there and remove the material we need for clean water.
Now let's do the job that we need to do.
Correct.
To get the clean water.
Correct.
How long will the appeal process take?
I don't know yet. They were supposed to send us the process and all of the statute and language that went with it. I still have not received it.
Well, that channel is half a mile long, that light cyan line, so that means it's 12, 15 feet wide. How could you even use it?
Well, we've explained that to them that just constructability is an issue with this.
Navigability is an issue.
Correct, but so is constructability, getting a dredge to actually create.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And to even get back into this area, they've almost made it impossible.
Now, they're so worried about the vegetation, and with today's science and technology, you can grow anything anywhere if it's done right. I mean, so that should be the least of their concerns. I mean, all the stuff that they've done up north and that bay up there by Duluth, I mean, they're replanting there if it doesn't come. And they're also saying that it takes maybe a few years before it'll even notice that it is coming.
5 to 7 years.
5 to 7, right? So, I mean, if we can't get our lake off the impaired list by doing what the DNR wants us to do, I mean, we're spinning our wheels. And we're not gonna have a very good report back from the community if we don't do something about that. And
You do a
it's an issue.
15-foot wide channel with communities.
And what's up there in Bancroft Bay now is not natural. I mean, that's all sediment that came in over the years, not natural.
Since this process has started, the DNR has made comments about, yes, our residents are sending letters and they're feeling the impact of that. Your frustration on this has led to the resolution with Minnesota Watersheds, which all the other watersheds across the state, we voted that's our primary number one legislative issue. When Commissioner Stroman addressed us at the legislative event. Like, you could tell that they're feeling the pressure. But it's the same bureaucratic garbage, evading responsibility, and we hear you and we're working, and and I'm just sitting there listening, and it's like, you're not listening to a word that any of us watersheds are saying. I mean, it's very frustrating that I think it's time to just take the gloves off and not be nice with them and. Letter to the, or press release, or this is why we're not getting our permit. This is the decision we have to make. I mean, really putting it back in the DNR in a very heavy-handed way.
Yeah, so I mean, I look at a couple things. I mean, I think our only route to go is the appeals process, if we want a successful project. I believe we also need to, again, communicate to the constituents that live out in this area. This is what the DNR has proposed. I think we also have to, again, bring in Senator Dornick and Representative Bennett, and continue to have them help us with putting that pressure on. But I think we will have to go through the appeals process to do that. I do have some other ideas out there. I'm not gonna share them yet, because I kind of need to see how this is gonna play out. What they are working on right now is the findings of facts. They said they would have that to us in 2 weeks, which is part of the limited permit. The finding of facts is supposed to state why they're not gonna give us a permit for our design. Where I have issues with that is we have science behind us. We have a scientific model behind us that says that we need to remove this phosphorus to clean up or to get off the clean water or impaired waters list, or at least help us get a large way there. The reasons they're giving me for why we can't dredge back here, to me, is say it blatantly, BS. As I will speak to the dredge committee, every time we've had a meeting with them, the goal has changed of what they want us to look at. It hasn't been consistent. Again, like this adaptive management plan and this turtle avoidance, when they came and gave us this, they said, well, if this is the permit you get, you don't need an avoidance plan and you don't need a vegetative management plan. If we do this. But if you look up here to the north is where a lot of the vegetation is, where they have their channel here, there's hardly any vegetation in that line. So again, Mick, I question them on that. And all of a sudden now, Corey emailed me Monday and says now we need to have an aquatic management plan for the north. So again, this keeps changing, and I think this is the story that we can tell the appeals court in our appeal to this permit. However, I don't know the timing on the appeals process. I don't have an idea yet of what that's gonna cost as well. But I know that if we go with this to what the DNR says they're gonna give us a limited permit for, will not get us to where we wanna be.
Our engineers, we've got really good engineers and they all know their stuff. Julie knows the landing turtle inside and out and can tell you everything we do here would make it better for them, not worse. And the same way with trying to think, I lost my train of thought.
Vegetation.
Yeah, the vegetation thing, we can get that back. Yeah, we need some. But then the engineers. I don't know why I lost that. Got myself all excited.
So,
About it.
so in this process.
So our engineers also say that if we don't do this way and we do it the engineer's way, we are gonna screw up that bay.
DNR's
really bad.
The DNR's way.
That DNR rate, that's gonna screw that up
Oh,
big time, that whole
so
bay.
is this administrative? Is this appeal process, is this an administrative law judge? That decides,
Based on what,
or does the DNR just ignore us?
No, it actually goes to a judge.
It does.
so the way that, Katie Smith made it sound, she said it's not like, it's not a court process, but it's an administrative judge process. And those were her quote. I don't know what that means. But that's what she said.
Kind of like a, mediation type thing, or?
I don't know who the judge would be, but like Andy mentioned, we were supposed to be getting how that process works.
Okay,
Would this be something that big court case last summer that came through the Chevron defense removed a lot of the ability of regulatory agencies to interpret their own standards? Which in this case would take. If this would apply to a state agency like this, it would take a lot of their subjective opinions out of the permit.
is that a
Does that
federal,
apply to
is
us
that
at
a
all?
federal?
I don't
issue?
believe so because that's federal, not
Yes.
state.
Unfortunately.
Al, anything? You've been sitting in on these meetings?
So, if I may remember right, it's about 162 acres. Is that what the number was up in here? It was 126 acres. 120,
Bankrupt Bay in total?
yeah,
Yeah, like 130 some acres somewhere, and we're looking at right around 65 acre drive.
so we think we compromise right there by just saying we'll do half.
So your buffer is huge.
Yeah. There's no more negotiating with them. We've had 3, 4, 5 meetings and you need to go to the appeals process or whatever, because they made up their mind and that's it.
And it really hasn't been a negotiation, it's been us basically saying and telling them why we need this. How we'll reduce to meet, their vegetation concerns, how we'll implement the aquatic vegetative management plan. How we'll do landing turtle avoidance, and then they take all this information and then they come back with this. And it's been constant, I mean, every meeting we're telling them. Why we need this, and again. I mean, even if you look at it compared to this map. They even changed, I mean, this is what they were gonna permit first, and then it's this, well, these are even different. Again, so. It's never been the same, every meeting has been different, again, there has been no negotiation. They just come back and tell us, well, this is what we think we need to meet. So, with that, I don't have any good news for us, the special meeting that I was looking at having was a special meeting. To get ready to put the contract out for bid. However, we will not need to do that at this time. So we keep pushing forward. Yeah, that's all I have unless there's other questions for me.
So at this point, we're assuming we're not dredging this summer and the timeline is gonna be impossible to meet no matter which way, and that's where we're sitting. Is there any restriction on when the bonding dollars have to be spent on dredging? Are we still within all the?
We're still within the initial 5 years, but if you remember last time, I think we extended our last one an additional 3 or 4 years. So no, there's no strict timeline as of right now, that we need to meet.
One last thing, they had a meet and greet on the Wednesday night and Courtney and I went over and talked to the DNR commissioner and Bob Meyer. And after they seen our badges from Trail Rock, they had a little different attitude maybe at the time or whatever, but they know we're pretty firm in what we want to do, so I guess full steam ahead, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, and what I will do is, as they finally sent me was either yesterday or Monday. Yesterday was Monday, the comments, internal comments, that they received from DNR staff internally. I will forward those on to all of you via email, so check your email. Within those comments, they're the same comments that we had in June. Exactly the same, nothing's changed from their internal comments, their internal concerns. I believe that we have addressed every concern they've had, and even reduced our scope to where I feel that we can still have a successful project. So again, I will forward that to you. We are in the midst of developing a response. That response we want on record with MPARS, which is the state permitting site. We want that response on record prior to them issuing the permit. That response will also go out to Gene Dornick, Representative Dornick and Senator Dornick and Representative Bennett, along with all of you. And as well, it will go out to the newspaper as well. So we can educate the community on, again, what we're trying to do, what DNR is limiting us to, and reasons why, so. All right, if there's no other questions, I'll move on to the next item. The Midwater BESS LLC update. BESS stands for battery energy storage system. This is a 150 watt, 150 megawatt battery storage site that has been proposed just south of Glenville. As you can see on the map, it's just right off of State Highway 65. The river borders it on the south side. What you see in the yellow there, those are almost like, look at it like storage storage boxes. They contain roughly 3 Tesla sized batteries within each storage box. Again, this is lithium battery technology, and the purpose of these is to, during low demand, we will use the highline or energy system to actually charge or put the energy into the batteries. And then during peak alerts, the energy then will be put back on the grid. Again, this will be run through the Public Energy Commission. That's who will permit this. Again, we were asked if we had any permitting authority for this. We do not have any permitting authority. This would, if there was any permitting authority, it would fall under the Freeborn County Shoreline Ordinance or planning and zoning, but it sounds like it's pretty much out of the county's hands as well. They also asked if we had safety concerns. There would be runoff concerns into the river. Thinking worst case scenario if this thing started on fire, which I think the opponents would say there have been units that have started on fire throughout the United States. Some of the bigger ones are out in California. These things do burn for quite a while. I believe the longest I've seen was 21 days. Another one was 17 days. You do not put water on them though to put them out. I think if you're going to if a fire department was to use water, it's to spray on the other containers that aren't on fire to keep them cool. I do know that there's quite a bit of safety systems within these cabinets. How that all works, I don't know. But as far as contaminants or contaminant, that would come from this would be more an air pollution issue. And then also knowing the wind direction and particle drift would be another potential contaminant. So again, the district again does not have any permitting authority here regarding this plan. However, you know, we can definitely chat with them. Definitely comment on the project itself. You know, I know that the people in the area down there are very unhappy. They say they're unhappy with the process. I totally understand where they're coming from. But again, we have no permitting authority for this whatsoever. You know, our concerns again would be runoff or water retention. We do have water retention built into this. We did have staff walk along with the tap panel from Fremont County that went out there and looked at if there was any wetland impacts. The district does not sit on the tap panel, but they were nice enough to ask us to come along, I believe. I don't remember, do you know when that was?
It was last summer.
Last summer. So we've looked at that. We've looked at, again, the retention area. They have the retention areas on site and located. So yeah, that's what I can tell you about the project. There is more information out there if you want me to gather more information for you. But that's what I know as of right now.
How many yards from the river is it gonna be built? Over 100 yards, couple hundred yards?
Yeah, I don't know if I have that information right offhand.
I guess I thought I heard at one time it was about 1,000 yards from it.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Pretty close, yeah.
Just doing some super quick beacon clicking, it looks like it's about 500 feet on the south side. I mean, obviously it gets pretty close when you get closer to where the river is, right where it says US Highway 65.
Yeah.
It's really close there.
But if you have a fire and air issues, that stuff settles out, so it's, it goes up, comes down, right?
Yeah. Do we see
They're
ourselves,
avoiding the floodplain.
we see ourselves taking a position on it for April meeting or?
I think the comment period for the EAW is already passed. I think it was March 9th.
Yesterday, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's, yeah, March 9th.
When is the final PUC hearing on this? Is it even on the docket?
I don't believe so, because I just went through the comment phase. But I can find that information out for
Well, I mean, we could, normally if that's the comment period, they might take a late comment from us if we want to make a comment. We've done that with power line and wind projects. We made late comments on those. But they may not. You could ask Suzanne Steinhauer if they'll take a comment, if it is the Public Utilities Commission.
I thought it was just for the EAW comment was.
Well, she may, it depends on what staff is working on, but Suzanne may know who's working on it.
So we did not make a comment then?
No, because of course I was gone last few months or last few weeks, and I was not submitting comments without board approval, and our board approval would have been today. And I believe comment period ended yesterday. So no, we have not submitted any formal comments to the EAW. However, I have commented to Spearmint about all the fire and runoff runoff issues, that I thought should be addressed, and that was back last summer sometime. Probably May or June. So those would be the only comments that we had submitted as an agency.
Right, but that would be our biggest concern, our contamination, if something should happen.
Correct.
Getting into the ground, so then we would. But it doesn't sound like we have a choice in this matter of how it goes down anyway.
Yeah, once it goes through the Public Utility Commission, it sort of takes it out of the locals' hands. Again, locals can comment. Throughout this process, through the EAW. I don't know if the Public Utilities has an actual comment period. I know there's been multiple meetings down in Glenville with the citizens down there that do not approve of this. So I'm sure they have those details. We have been sending people to DNR with their concerns, because I'm assuming the DNR PCA, they're also gonna comment on this as well. I know Haley Byron is well aware of the project. So we've sent people her information to contact her, reach out to her. So that's what I know as of right now.
You know, I've been contacted a couple of times and there again, I'm a little hesitant about making a comment. Even though if I were to make a comment on my own personally, being on a watershed, it'll get out there, of course, blowing up saying it was a watershed decision.
Absolutely.
I don't make comments on those things unless we talk about it at a board meeting and then we all agree on something. And then we can comment on it. I think we have to be careful otherwise.
I don't think we even know what the actual problems are with this facility for sure, the science behind it.
Right.
I think that's all conjecture right now, right? I certainly don't know that.
Joe, you were in the public, you know, electrical stuff with the city or whatever in your
Yeah,
job stuff.
never ran into battery issues, so
Never.
that's like this.
I think, if I may comment, and it's not off the record, obviously, but I think we're not a political body. The watershed district is not a political body. And per se, an elected body. I think we leave it to the elected bodies officials to hash this out. Because we have no authority. If you want to make a comment, that's fine, but that's my own opinion.
With that, Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Okay, then we'll go on to, thank you very much. Andy. We'll go on to item 8, manager items. Are there any manager items, any managers have something they'd like to talk about?
I went to the county board meeting on the 4th. And for the most part, there wasn't anything that really had to do with us, but they are putting in for grants through the trails, and they got a couple there, they put in for 3 different grants. And you know, with the railroad cross, there's a couple, 3 crossings out there over small ditches and stuff. So, you know, there'll be folks, keep an eye on that. You know, they're gonna have to replace some of that bridges, so.
This is the trail to Heartland, right?
Yep. The 5th phase they're working to get out to Manchester right now. So at least they're moving in that direction, trying to get funding, to get the first stage of it going to, you know, down by Blue Ridge all the way up to Heartland.
There's a ISG is hosting a Southern Minnesota Lakes like meeting up in Mankato. It's March 21st and 22nd, so I'd ask Andy and Minnesota Watersheds if they split the cost of me attending, so like So same day as the March 21st meeting, but it starts in the evening, so there wouldn't be an additional stipend or really any mileage. Registration, I think was $15 or $25, so very reasonable. So it'd just be the Saturday that I'd be driving up there to attend, so I'd ask Andy and Watersheds to be going to that, so. I'll be going to that in 2 weeks here.
Okay. Any other manager items? Hearing none, we'll go on to item 9, which is upcoming meetings. So the special board meeting for the 25th is now not canceled, it's canceled. Okay. Don't worry about that. Then our next regular meeting, board meeting is April 8th. Got on your calendar. That, do I have a motion to adjourn? The move. Manager Kramer, do we have a second? Manager Paluski, will you please call roll?
Manager Bakken,
I.
Manager Hanson,
I.
Manager Kramer,
Aye.
Manager Besuski,
Aye.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Delter.
We are adjourned.